Mulder and Scully investigate a tent ministry after a sudden death. What they find is a young man who has the ability to heal the sick, but they die soon afterward. Could there be more behind this string of tragedies?
This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
The woman on the table has a malignant tumor on her spine. This boy here is going to attempt to heal her by simply laying his hands on her.
Where'd you get this?
I came in from the regional office in Tennessee. The preacher's name is...
Reverend Calvin Hartley.
You've heard of him?
The boy is his adopted son, Samuel. He claims to have found him as an infant lying in the tall weeds on the banks of the muddy Mississippi.
Did you know that he also claims the boy brought a man back from the dead?
It's more than a claim. The man he saved appears as a regular attraction in the Reverend's tent ministry. The boy's been performing miracles every week for the past 10 years. Twice on Sunday.
Well, not according to the Kenwood County Sheriff. Local authorities think that Reverend Hartley and his son are a scam. They've been trying to shut him down for some time now, but without any luck, so they've turned to the FBI to try and get a prosecution.
For what, fraud?
No, murder. Watch the tape.
Lucy Kelly has the cancer. The doctors say it is inoperable. They say it is incurable. But I say to you that what the doctors cannot cure, the Lord can. Yes, indeed, praise God. Because God can work miracles. Today, the clear light of God's healing love is flowing through Samuel's healing hands.
20 minutes later, Lucy Kelly was rushed to the hospital. She was pronounced dead on arrival.
What was the cause of death?
I don't know, but it wasn't cancer.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. I am Andrew, joined by Mike. Say hello to the nice people.
Hello, good people.
Tonight, we are going to review Miracle Man, the 17th episode of Season 1. It was written by Howard Gordon and Chris Carter. And, of course, Howard Gordon wrote and produced dozens of episodes through the first 4 seasons. This episode was directed by Michael Lang, who only directed 4, including Young at Heart, Ascension, and Unrequited. So I don't know what to make of this episode. I know we'll dive into it a bit further, but I don't know. It didn't really move me.
Move? No. I would say it's enjoyable. It's got its good parts, and then there are some questionable things that I have for it towards the end, but it's entertaining. It's a middle of the road episode, I would say.
The kind 4? Is that the
kind 3?
The terminology from Faux Krychek of episodes past.
I do want to say he's got one of those faces that, and I say this with great respect to Bairstow because I don't mean any disrespect to him, but he's like the poor man's Hayden Christensen. I actually think Bairstow's a better actor, if that makes sense. Like in this episode, he does a fantastic
We're not going to talk about Hayden Christensen in Star Wars because that is another rabbit hole that we could do a whole other podcast for. But ultimately, I think it is about the material.
True.
And in this case, he's given a lot to work with in Miracle Man.
Luckily, this episode was not written by George Lucas.
Yes. George Lucas surprisingly had very little to do with X-Files. At the risk of diverting further, let us talk about the actual episode. Audience, the theme for tonight's puns will be religious, because Miracle Man, obviously. So let us bless ourselves with a review of the episodes. Here we go.
Amen.
We open in wintertime in the city. This is Kenwood, I think, right, is the city in Tennessee.
Kenwood, Tennessee.
There has been some kind of accident. Fire crews, paramedics working on the victims. The crowds are gathered around looking, very crowd-like. Man in a suit holding a Bible. He's walking along with a little boy, and they approach a body bag and open it, showing a badly burned body. And the little boy proceeds to ask the corpse to rise in a very religious, old-time, revival-y kind of way, which is very strange coming out of the mouth of a 9-year-old or something. The fire chief comes over and tries to move him away. This guy's dead. You can't do anything. What are you doing? And I like the little interchange there with the I guess this is Reverend
Hartley.
that we'll find out later. But yeah, he's there like, well, if he's dead, it's not going to hurt him, right? There's nothing going to be lost on this.
Okay. Logical sentence, but I don't buy that they are just allowed to do this.
Well, in the South, it's different. So maybe the fire chief was like,
"You're a Bible man. Of course
sir.
You can have access to a newly dead person."
Well, the boy continues, and as he finishes, the hand of the burned body reaches out to grasp the boy's hand, seemingly coming back to life, just like Lazarus, except a badly burned Lazarus, I suppose, to these strains of creepy organ music. Cue credits. Oh. Did this introduction to the episode get you? Did it go, oh, we're going to have an awesome X-File?
It works. I mean, it's interesting.
It's
He's bringing someone back to life. Okay, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I hate to be that guy. Anything that has to do with scripture, I'm like half checked out. But that being said, it's not, I don't feel that throughout this episode, so it's not.
I think what they did here, obviously, was they were letting us know what this episode is going to be. This is going to be a little bit of an X-Files dive into the idea of miracles, of well, in this case, bringing people back to life, by way of the power of the Lord or whatever it is. So for what they're trying to do, I'm like, okay, solid setup. I'm in.
Yeah, it works.
We then cut to VHS footage of a revival tent. This is Reverend Hatley. Lots of hallelujahs, praise the Lords. Scully is showing Mulder a tape of Reverend Calvin Hatley and his son Samuel. Samuel is going to heal a malignant tumor on a woman's spine simply by laying on hands. So they pause and have a little back and forth here, and we know that through the big exposition drop, Mulder's familiar with Hartley. He drops a little bit of background about the two of them. We, learn about Samuel's background. Scully lets us know that the local authorities think that the duo are a scam, and they've enlisted the FBI to help them find the proof, not just of being frauds, but also of murder. And as the tape runs, we see Samuel laying hands on the woman, but the tape gets turned off, and then she tells him that she dies 20 minutes later. So this is our setup. This is how the agents are going to get involved. And interestingly, this is Scully bringing the...
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like this because we get to see her contributing to the beginning of an X-File or an interesting case. We saw something like that in Jersey Devil, but it wasn't really something she was pursuing. In this, she's like, shit's happening. This is interesting.
And we have been asked to assist here. And she's like, this is perfect for us because we can actually do something. We have the background on this. And Mulder is familiar with faith healers, so he's like on board as well.
Yeah. I just like that she's informing him. She's letting him know the situation. I think it's a nice change of pace.
Do you think...
And Mulder's actually contributing here. He's enjoying the little stint here.
Now, do you think that... I don't know the official pecking order they have here. Is this a case of her bringing this to him and him saying, yes, we will do this because he somehow has authority over the X-Files? Or is this literally a case of she has engineered it that the X-File division will be involved?
I don't think she is bringing it to him like, can we please do this? But at the same time, I do think he's probably the sign off. I want to do this or I don't, because it's Mulder at the end of the day. He's going to do what he wants to do. But
yep. Well, he's on board. And we head down to Kenwood, Tennessee. We're outside the Miracle Ministry, a big outdoor tent. It's in some sort of parking lot, too. I like the sort of ghetto nature of it. It's like, yeah, the rent's real cheap here. We see Mulder and Scully arrive. We also see the sheriff arrive in a van. And we see someone who we will eventually learn is his wife, who I don't think has an actual name as a character.
I don't think so.
So canonically,
we just see her.
She will be known as Harriet from here on in. Arthritic Harriet is her name. And yeah, we get a little bit of a bypass showing us the front of the van, which has got a disabled parking permit on it. So we know that not all is well at Sheriff's house.
The tent.
Inside the tent, Reverend Hartley greets the crowd, but admits that Samuel won't be with them today. To the consternation of the entire gathering. They wanted Samuel.
Oh, the whole reason we're here.
That's right. We paid tickets to get in today.
What's that about? Isn't that a little shady? I mean,
Maybe they didn't pay for tickets to get in because they passed the communion plate around later. So I'm assuming maybe. Well, he says in 2 days he'll be back, which I think is an interesting assumption on his part. It says a lot about him because he tells the agents later, I don't know where he is. So yeah, 2 days, he'll be back. Reverend goes on to assure the crowds that Samuel will heal you, but only if you believe. So he's putting on a bit of a show.
I want to stop here just real quick, just to give credit to George Gerdes. I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
He does a really good job as that minister.
Oh, it's a full-on role. Yeah, he
really puts
have
on quite the performance, and I enjoy watching him, and it's stuff like that kind of bumps this episode up. Do you want to be healed, eh?
Sorry.
Y'all want to be healed?
And it's pretty good for the most part. I mean, obviously, the main characters, they have lots of time to perfect their accents, and the script is tailored to them. But I think the one person it falls down for, and I'm jumping way to the end, is like the nurse who they interview at the end. Her southern accent is not good. I will harp on that later because I have a note. They clearly knew that the southern accent was not something that most Canadians in BC can just draw upon. So Mulder and Scully then go on to accost the Reverend Hartley outside of the tent. Scully is asking to speak with Samuel, but Hartley hasn't seen him lately, saying the boy's been troubled, and I can't find him. We then see our mysterious figure in black wearing a fedora, telling the Reverend we're running late. We will learn that this is Leonard Vance, and his face is a bit messed up. What do we think of Leonard Vance's makeup job? Middle of the road?
I don't know if, and I, again, mean no disrespect to the actor, I don't know if he's just fat or if they're making him look really weird because he was burned and it's scar tissue or something. I don't know. I think it's a little pale and it's just off-putting, because he's burned, but because it just looks wrong. I don't think the makeup did a great job.
I think that you have nailed it for me there, in the sense that it looks like a comic book supervillain.
It does.
That's the effect it gives me. It looks very comic, and I think it would just been better if you gave him burn scars and didn't try and make it look like he was covering them up. Yeah. Maybe it's plastic surgery is the effect they're trying to give us, but.
And that's the thing is you don't know what it's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be burn or scar tissue, or is it like him doing something? The way I'm going to put it is it's probably, no offense to the team here, but
you sound like a Canadian with all your apologies. Be mean.
I feel like I'm
savage.
being a dick.
Come on.
I'm sorry. Probably that's the same people who did the makeup in Chinga, because that was terrible too. I'm just kidding. I have no idea if it was them or
sometimes your budget only stretches so far, I think is the issue.
We know how to do white makeup and nail polish blood.
Well, they the two of them, Leonard Vance and Reverend Hartley, jump into the Reverend's white Cadillac and they head off. I love the license plate, Be Healed. I think it's a nice touch. So Mulder and Scully then meet with Sheriff Daniels, and he hands Scully the coroner's report. The sheriff is obviously not a fan of the Reverend, and he believes that Samuel killed our cancer sufferer. And Scully then reads through the coroner's report. She notes that there was no autopsies performed. The sheriff reveals that Hartley and his group have had the autopsies blocked on the basis of religious grounds. But with the FBI involved now, they could have the body exhumed. I don't know. I think there's a bit of a plot hole. There's something wrong with the script at this point, because we have gone to Tennessee on the premise that one person died after being touched by Samuel. But now all of a sudden we have multiple bodies, Yeah. They literally say them, you think that's how he killed them with a touch, I don't know how he killed them or how he did it. suddenly we have multiple bodies, and that is a new point that's not really brought up. I mean, it raises the stakes, but it does it off stage in a way that I think is unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think people who go to this stuff are very susceptible to suggestion, and I'm willing to believe that they will allow these people to speak on their behalf.
It does underline a failing of the episode in that there is so much perhaps that is cut from the script that maybe was there originally that hasn't been filmed, that it just opens up these kind of questions like, oh, so now there's multiple victims. Oh, so now there are families that are blocking all the requests. Like when they have the body exhumed, which is in the very next scene, I'm assuming that that is going to lead directly to the autopsy being performed by Scully, but it in fact does not. And that is never addressed until the very end when we have a big scene about the latest victim and how finally we're going to get somebody who will allow the autopsy to be conducted, and that's going to give us the evidence which will lead to the end of the episode. But none of that, it's like, well, do you have the powers of the FBI to do the autopsy regardless of these religious grounds or not? They just don't finish that thread. Because why do the exhumation if you're not going to get permission?
Right.
So I'll go on to the next scene, which is the exhumation. They are in the graveyard with a spooky red glow. Backhoe is removing a coffin from a grave, and a collection of people walk onto the scene holding candles. It's Reverend Hartley's group. Sheriff has a showdown with Leonard Vance, the mystery man in black, with his black fedora, who has come to shut down the exhumation with the power of religion. Vance's face is very strange, as if he's had a poor makeup job. Oh, looks like I already saw this coming. Yeah.
Who's the other deputies? Like Father Time.
Yeah. They have some interesting deputies in this episode. And they all they've got a lot of screen time for, bit parts, but anyway, Scully tries to run some interference, but it does get heated. Vance says the family of the dead woman does not want the body exhumed. The sheriff saying Carol had no family, and Vance exclaiming that the congregation were her family. We were her family. Anyway, he's determined to stay with the vigil, and while this is happening, the sheriff reports to Mulder and Scully that a deputy has spotted Samuel's car downtown, which conveniently leads us away from this whole plot thread. And eventually, we'll pick this up later in an unrelated way. But again, they don't really finalize this bit, because if they're exhuming the body, I got to assume they got a court order, right? Yeah. So if you've got that order, then you're doing it for a reason. It's not like, oh, we're digging up the body just in case we can convince the family to let us do, the autopsy.
I don't think Chris Carter, unfortunately, also writing this episode, didn't take into account how the law works.
Yeah.
For that part.
Well, to be fair, neither does Mulder sometimes take into account how the law works. Although I will say later on, he does actually have a moment of lawyerness.
He does.
Okay. Well, anyway, I think I've illustrated my dislike for that particular bit of business. It'll come.
I'm with you.
So they all head off to find Samuel. We cut to downtown with Mulder, Scully, the sheriff, and some deputies entering a bar where there's been a fight. Samuel started it. So the sheriff is going to arrest Samuel, who looks like he's taken a few punches, and he asks to finish his beer first. And I guess since this is, quote, the South, unquote, he's going to let him.
I'll have a gentleman's beer before I take your sorry ass to jail.
You paid for it, so I guess you're entitled.
Hey, I will let you finish that beer.
It'll make your time in jail just that much sweeter.
I'm going to have somebody take a statement from you. I'll see what I can do about getting your caddy towed.
The sheriff? What evidence do you have to charge the boy murder?
Well, what more do you want? The boy's practically giving himself up.
Look at him, though. He's drunk.
Well, then I'll add drunk and disorderly. Let's get this straight. It's not a question about the boy's guilt. Just how he did it.
Well, let me have a minute with her.
Come suit yourself.
Samuel? I'm Agent Mulder. This is Agent Scully from the FBI. Looks like you took quite a beating there.
Penance, Mr. Mulder.
Some might call it a plain old bar brawl.
You know what they say. He giveth, then he taketh away. Man gets too proud. Sometimes it does him good to get the crap kicked out of him. Saves God the trouble.
The trouble of what?
Humbling the guilty sinner.
Guilty of murder?
Yes, sir.
How'd you do it, Samuel?
Apparently my pride and weakness were an invitation to the devil. I muddied the river of my own faith. Now my gift has been corrupted.
So you're saying that you killed those people with a touch?
I've laid my hands on the ill, given them health. I've healed the sick. I've even touched the dying and given them life. God has given me a special gift.
Did he buy you all that jewelry, too? I think there's something missing in your story, Samuel.
Do you doubt the power of God, ma'am?
No. But I doubt the veracity of your claims.
I've looked on the infirm and seen their sickness, their cancer. Just as I can see the pain on this man, right here.
Really? What pain is that?
The pain you have regarding a brother or a sister. It's an old pain. It's never been healed.
Is this some kind of a trick?
No trick.
The sheriff's evidence is the boy's practically giving himself up, so I guess I gotta arrest him.
He's not putting up a fight.
He said he did it, so I guess
It's as good as an admission.
that's my investigation. He said he did it. Mulder also suggests that Samuel being drunk might be a factor here. You know, like maybe he's just saying that because he's drunk, but the sheriff isn't really buying any of it. I mean, again, this is a point where you just have to let the plot do what the plot's going to do, and Samuel is going to jail, damn it. So Mulder and Scully talk to Samuel. He is a bit maudlin, suggesting he deserves the beating in the bar fight. He suggests his pride and weakness were an invitation to the devil, and he's corrupted his own faith. So I guess the through line here is that Samuel thought or had the power to heal in the past, and he thinks that his pride and his success or whatever are a weakness that have corrupted his power, and now when he touches people, they die. So
it's interesting. I like it. It's
a twist. You know, they have taken this template and give it the X-Files treatment.
Yeah. He became so prideful that now his talent, his miracle working is now a curse.
Yep.
I can believe that.
Well, Scully gets involved, suggesting there's more to it than all of this, and she's taking up the familiar mantle of the doubter. But then Samuel throws a curveball by suggesting he can see the pain in Mulder, and we get our little side quest of the episode, the thing that does not belong. Why do they do this? I guess it's early X-Files, so they're still figuring it out, but again, they decided to latch on something to an episode which could have been perfectly fine without it. We have Samuel basically dictating Mulder's backstory of his loss of Samantha and how she was probably abducted. I mean, he doesn't go into the abduction, but the strangers, a bright light. You lost her, a sister, quite young.
Do you think they did it to give Mulder that reason to be fanatical?
I don't know why they did it. I feel like it's lazy story. I think that they needed to give him something to do. I don't know. I feel like...
Aside from the case.
Yeah, right.
Mulder can't be focused. I don't know. He's got to be pulled in several different directions.
Well, look, it gives him something to chew on as a scene, right? Like as a character in the story. It's something different for him to chew on and to emote. So I guess that's cool,
right.
But it really doesn't belong here, and it doesn't really do anything long term other than remind us that Samantha is out there.
I'll tell you what it does do long term for me.
Okay.
Anger me about continuity. It's not the same actress who plays his sister.
Well, they go through like 4 different Samanthas, don't they?
They do a couple, but the main one from 2 to 4 or whatever.
Right. Well, I think this is also the first time we see a physical Samantha.
Yes, I believe you're correct.
Okay, and we don't
need to go down that hole, but
exactly.
I'm pretty sure
we'll talk about Samantha showing up later. But anyway, Samuel drops some details about Samantha's abduction that strike a chord in Mulder, but before we can get to any good stuff, Sheriff decides to drag him away from this plot thread. No, you cannot have this conversation. I am going to take you.
No.
And of course, Mulder has no power as the FBI to stop this. It's like, oh no, the plot demands that you're going to be dragged away while we're having this conversation. So I guess I'll let it happen.
Yeah.
We're at the Kenwood County Courthouse now. It's the next day, I think, and Samuel is going to get a bail hearing. And I like how his defense lawyer asks that no bond's going to be set, but Samuel strenuously objects. He jumps up and says, no, I don't want to be free, you know?
Because that's not a problem.
No, exactly. Like, this is the client from hell, right?
Yeah, shut your face and let me win a case.
Even the district attorney, we call them crown attorney up here because we're still like monarchical.
Monarchical.
Yeah. So the district attorney is going to agree to the bail conditions. Maybe just a paltry $100,000 is going to be dropped to set him free. And
chump change for a tent minister.
Well, the guy's got 5 Cadillacs outside his palace.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like, can you take a Cadillac and trade? Would that work? I guess I will. How much would a caddy like that cost in $94? Probably not $100,000, but
not $100,000. No,
it's tricked out. Probably it's nice.
50,000 maybe.
Yeah. So 2 caddies. We'll just park them in the lot out back. Does that work? So as the bond is set and the ruling is handed down, a plague of locusts fills the courtroom. And Samuel does not take it in stride, not one little bit. He declares that this is a sign of his own guilt. Does a serpent have to bite you on the ass till you understand?
Very biblical.
Yeah.
Very biblical.
Well, as the courtroom clears, the sheriff and Reverend Hartley share a meaningful glance. The chair recognizes Mike. He raised his finger.
Thank you. Before we move on, I want to say the judge is Walter Marsh, and we also see him in Unruh as the druggist. And Christmas Carol, we saw him as the old, I really don't want to do anything coroner, who's like talking to Scully like, well, it could be that, but might have been aliens.
I did like him in that episode. Well, nice that they give him some work, toss him a bone. But again, there's only so many actors in Vancouver, so you're going to come back to these same guys.
Let me just say we have at least 5 more, I think. So keep going.
Okay. You've got them written down there, do you? All right. So yes, we had a lot of locusts in the courtroom, cunningly shot to make it look like it was filled. I gather it was a pain in the ass to shoot this because apparently locusts are gross.
It must have been super fun to have a room full of extras learning how to act.
Well, and they had to buy all their clothes apparently because there's no cleaning them. It's just gross all ways. But yeah, there's a moment where the camera pans over the desks and you see all the locust bodies. I'm sure lots of them are fake, right? But it looks very compelling, and there are lots of them flying around, stuck to people's faces.
Actually, they had thousands of them on strings dangling from the ceiling.
And a big puppeteer. It's delightful. Well, Mulder and Scully are back in their hotel room in our next scene and examining some of the locusts they took. Mulder's reciting from the Bible, which I looked up the passage he is quoting from. Do you want to know where it's from?
It's Exodus, yeah.
10:13.
I don't think that was planned.
Well, then.
At all.
A coincidence that I shall claim. Scully explains that they are in an agricultural area, that this is all entirely possible. And I think, no. How many times?
She has these moments, doesn't she? Where she's like, I really don't want to believe anything.
It was a weather balloon, Mulder. Come on.
Yeah. Come on, Scully. What are the chances that happens?
I think she knows that she's not going to win this one. So she changed tactics and decides to poke the bear and ask Mulder whether maybe you're taking this personally because Samuel brought up his sister. And Mulder dodges it completely by suggesting Samuel's for real, citing dozens of X-Files relating to faith healing, but of course he hasn't seen anything like Samuel. And they do their little back and forth about the theory, suggesting that, he's got a power within him that can deal with electricity or something. fine-tune people's electricity. And if he has the power to heal, then he can also have the power to kill. Do you like this theory? I'm not in love with that.
I'm not in love with it. One, because Mulder's like, and I know he's not necessarily taking the religious side of it, but he's on that side of it. It just doesn't feel 100% Mulder.
Well, I think he's trying to give an explanation which is not religious.
Yes, he is doing that.
Which I'm so sorry, Mulder. Like, when you do a tally of all the superpowers that Samuel has in this episode, from, childhood to his resurrection, basically, none of that is explained by what you just suggested. But
electrolytes, all he needs to do is drink Gatorade.
Yeah, he's like Pusher. He's just got to eat the super gum or the protein bars.
Protein bars.
Well, a knock on the door conveniently interrupts this train of thought. It produces Leonard Vance, who says that the Reverend would like to see you, if it's convenient, or something Southern.
He just walks away.
And then We then cut to the Reverend's palatial pink house. Has no less than 5 Cadillacs parked outside of the front pink portico. Inside is equally opulent, with the Reverend apologizing to the agents, citing stress. The Reverend is certain that Samuel is innocent. He's a very complicated young man who feels things like no one else. And he goes on this whole tangent about he's able to heal people because his feelings are so deep, which I think is pretty trite.
Yeah.
He suggests that the sheriff is out to get him, that the sheriff's wife suffers from an arthritis that Samuel could cure. So this is our tension between the sheriff and the Reverend, is that the sheriff doesn't believe, is desperate not to believe. I guess he's desperate to find the scientific and logical explanation how this guy's a fraud. Because if he did believe, then he could cure his wife, but it would be to give up everything he believes. Does that feel about right?
Yeah, he's just being stubborn about it. He's being Scully.
He's Sheriff Scully, basically, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Scully then suggests that due to recent events, you can hardly blame him. I don't want my wife to die. So,
right.
Reverend can't explain how, quote, those poor people died, unquote, but he wants the agents to be present at the ministry tonight so he can see Samuel in action. And at this point, Mulder has what can only be called a hallucination of little Samantha in a red dress. This, I think, is our first point where he sees Samantha.
Yeah.
And he excuses himself to go outside to, of course, see absolutely no one, but he does see Samuel in an upstairs window looking meaningfully downward.
Smoking that cigarette.
Yeah, do you get the sense that they're trying to make it look like he's given Mulder this thought, like he's controlling him somehow? Like they're connecting the characters together.
Yeah, they're I don't want to say that he's controlling him or giving him any thoughts directly. I think it was just one of those scenes to be like, oh yeah, Samuel's a part of this.
Yeah, he's got powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he's got a moment there. He's looking all sexy in the window. We're back at the ministry tonight, and Leonard Vance is greeting the audience and handing out complimentary cola. You want to say it's cola?
Yeah, that or death juice.
Well, it's clearly, not. I think this is the method, right? This is where poison's being handed out. So, I mean, he is a psychopath. If he is in fact doling out the poison in this, then he's killing everybody in the ministry tent. But I don't know. Are they trying to set it up that he's poisoning certain people and not just dosing the entire?
Oh yeah,
congregation. I
think he's choosing his victims here.
Yeah.
Not to jump ahead. So he hands her the cup. And
does he? I don't remember that. Are you looking at it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense then. So that he's able to deliberately dose specific people, because otherwise it's like, how on earth?
Because right now it's like standing room only. And he's like, let me get you in the front row.
Yeah.
So that way there's a good chance Samuel will pick you.
Right. Okay, well, that is the thrust of the scene, in that we have our next victim to be Margaret Holman, a wheelchair-bound She arrives, her parents are there, and Vance assures them he can put Margaret in the front row so she can be seen by Samuel. Meanwhile, Samuel has doubts about going on. He's reassured by Reverend Hartley, dropping some exposition that Leonard Vance is, in fact, the man that was saved in our opening credits. And Vance is the proof that Samuel still has his gifts. So if you hadn't figured it out up till now, now you should know that Vance is the one that boy Samuel cured, resurrected, brought back to life, unburned, well, partially unburned, at the beginning at our opener.
Yeah. Crazy Fedora Man is burn victim.
Yes. Supervillain, comic book supervillain. Now, were you about to tell me that there are some actors we need to pay attention to in this scene?
We do have some actors. We have a double dose, and turns out they're related in this episode. But Campbell Lane is the father, and we will also see him again in Calusari and other roles. Right. There are a couple others. And then the daughter in the wheelchair, Chilton Crane. We see her most prominently in the two-parter Tempest Fugit and Max.
Gotcha.
She plays his sister.
All right.
Graphia.
I got to say, Calusari is one of my least favorite episodes.
It's not great.
Yep. But I'm sure Campbell's great, though.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's the best part of the episode. So Mulder and Scully arrive at the ministry tent. Hartley storms onto the stage and takes it. He's in full Reverend Hartley mode. I like how the collection plate is immediately passed around. So to your point, ticket price and collection plate? Nice.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not Catholic. They comp you to get in, but the plate is...
This is on the same level as Southern Baptist.
And hey, you get a meal. You get communion wafers and wine.
Yeah, at least you get a snack.
You get a snack. Catholic.
But that's after you do your workout routine of kneeling, standing, sitting, kneeling.
To be fair, we're being super offensive to all practicing
Catholics. I was raised Catholic, so I don't give a shit.
So you're allowed? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I couldn't give two fucks, no.
Nice. But, so Vance goes on, and he's been introduced as a living testament of the ability of God to work miracles. And Vance testifies about Samuel while Mulder sees another vision of Samantha in the crowd, and he goes over to investigate. This I could do without. Samuel goes on stage. He's laying hands on people in the front row as Mulder lunges around searching for Samantha. And then we see Samuel spending extra time with Margaret, praying with her. This is all very positive. We see she's about to get healed, but no sooner has he started than Margaret goes into spasms. And with Reverend Hartley crying out for people, don't panic, praise God, Margaret just dies. The diagnosis of death is confirmed by Dr. Scully because she touches the part where the pulse is and determines there's no pulse and therefore the person is dead. And in no way can she do anything. There's no...
You just give up. I mean,
you just give up, right? There's no...
All her medical training springs into action in the scene.
That's right. Her role as a Dr. McCoy in this situation... She's dead, Mulder. And Samuel gets dragged away backstage. I would like to point out that you would think that maybe this is a modern innovation, but there might be a condition to the bail that includes a provision that Samuel should stop doing whatever he might be doing that could possibly be murdering people, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they would let him out. Oh, by the way, you have a trial pending. Most likely. And you go ahead, keep doing what you're doing, which is leading to people's deaths already.
Well, this is the charge, right? The idea that somehow he is touching people and they end up dying. Sheriff has arrested him. So you got to imagine that he thinks that there's a likelihood that the DA is going to prosecute. And in fact, that is what's happening because the DA is there and he's like, sure bail, but it's got to be $100,000. So clearly he's in the fight. But is there no will to do the prosecution here? Because if there was, then surely to God, you wouldn't let him go and do what he's doing that's led to these people dying.
But see, this is the South. They want to be friendly to everyone. And whether you're on the line for murder, we're going to let you keep doing what you're doing until the law 100% says you're a criminal.
call this a massive plot hole because I know that they're doing it to allow for this gotcha moment to happen, but it's like, no. If you believe that he is actually doing this and you arrested him to stop him from doing it, then how does he get to do it again?
Well, here's the question. Like, on top of what you're saying, and I completely agree, what do they do for the second half of this episode if this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
So it's like, what is Mulder and Scully's next step? What is going to happen if they don't allow him to keep going and have another death? Because if they don't have her, then they don't have the family.
That's right. We go to another better episode. This could be a 22-minute sitcom ending at the 22-minute mark with a laugh track, and they go back to Washington.
That's awesome. Canned laughter as she's convulsing.
A slow fade out. Mulder and Scully doing a half jump, freeze frame, slapping hands.
Saved by the Bell.
That would be awesome. Well, that doesn't happen here because Margaret's mother cries over her dead daughter, and we pan across our agents and into commercial. We also pan across the other people in the front row who are looking just like, well, I'm glad I didn't get killed. It's just such a weird moment where they're all just, there's this dead body of, I don't know. Can you imagine being there and Margaret's just died horribly? You're sitting right beside her.
Yeah. What?
Yeah,
don't touch me, Sam.
I'm just going to move away. I don't know.
I want to watch Reverend Hartley talk his way out of that crowd.
Oh, he immediately ejects himself backstage. He's like, we'll see you next week, people. Bye-bye.
Phone ring.
Yeah. Well, now we finally get to pick up on our autopsy business, the little plot thread that could. We're outside the Kenwood County Hospital. Vance is leading a group of parishioners to object to the autopsy of Margaret Homan. Inside, Scully's speaking to Margaret's father to try and convince him to authorize an autopsy. So he's clearly one of the almost converted, and he's like, well, I don't think maybe we should, or I don't know what this, I've forgotten already what the dialogue is here, but he needs some convincing. He's going to talk it over. I guess maybe Reverend Hartley's already had a conversation with him saying, oh, you can't, or probably Leonard Vance had the conversation saying, you can't desecrate the body. But they're going to go, Mom and Pop are going to have a talk.
Had he taken just a few seconds longer with the other people he was touching faces,
yeah,
she would have started convulsing pre-touch. So
it's horrendously convenient timing. I would say if we are willing to believe Mulder's assertion that Samuel has an ability to regulate people's electrical fields or whatever.
It's like hastening it.
It is prompting it to happen within Margaret and all the other victims.
Okay, Chris Carter.
Yeah. It just raises more questions than it answers, really, because then how did Leonard know that this was the poison to use? But anyway, listen, when I bring up these questions for an episode you like, you tell me just to go with it.
Oh, I'm not reacting to you, sir. I'm saying you're probably right. And it's...
Oh, you think that's how they justified it to themselves?
It could be. I don't know. I mean, either way, that scene is 1,000% convenient and needed to happen or the episode doesn't even remotely work. So,
yes.
So, yeah, I'm with you.
I'm forming an opinion about this episode in that I like it for the performances. I hate it for the script. And Howard Gordon usually writes with Alex Ganza, though, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't in this one. So I think that is maybe a failing, is there's a counterpoint that maybe reigns in to make a better episode, and it was Chris Carter in this case.
That's the thing is, I think Howard Gordon and Alex Ganza go together, and for me, my opinion, and I'm not throwing shade, I love Chris Carter, but I think Frank Spotnitz is his handler.
Right.
Because when Frank Spotnitz is involved, everything seems to work just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so could be.
Okay, well, that's a nice little diversion. So we then have a bit of interchange between Scully and Mulder, and she has figured out that Mulder is seeing his sister somehow. she's deduced this, but it does allow her to suggest that this is perhaps the power of suggestion, that in fact it's not electrolytes or electricity or whatever power Mulder has posited. It's just his ability to persuade people that they can heal, and that this is what does she say? Imagine a miracle and you're halfway there. We learned that in med school. So it's an interesting idea, and it certainly does jibe with what they're trying to say about Mulder seeing his sister, that this is some sort of hypnotic suggestion. We don't really get to go more into detail in this because Pops Homan walks over and agrees to the autopsy. Convenient timing. And we now cut to Dana in fashionable autopsy wear. She's sharpening a blade with a carving steel.
It's almost comedic.
It feels contrived.
Yeah, like sleek, sleek, sleek. I was like, what are you doing? What are they going for?
She's going to carve a turkey or something.
Right.
I mean,
it's like she's just been chomping at the bit to get this autopsy, and now she's got it.
People can comment and tell us that this is in fact how you sharpen a autopsy scalpel, but I feel like
I just feel the cut was weird, and it's almost humorous. I don't know.
It's odd. Well, Mulder looks a little queasy, and as time passes, Scully diagnoses that Margaret might have died because of cellular hypoxia, a lack of oxygen to the cells. She figures that it may have been ingested or injected with sodium or potassium cyanide or arsenic. Mulder leaves her and goes to check in on Samuel. He's going to get Samuel released because they've just figured out that Samuel likely didn't poison Margaret with sodium cyanide. But Samuel is determined to be guilty. Whatever the cause, he feels responsible. Mulder tells him that regardless, the law is going to find him innocent. And Mulder pokes the bear to try and find out more about his visions of Samantha, but Samuel doesn't have anything more to offer. They have a bit of business at the end about how, it's a trick of the devil. So I didn't really know what to draw from those allusions. They don't delve. I don't really buy it.
Yeah, it's just talk. It's kind of a throwaway line, I think.
It's like they want to commit to something. Like if you're going to make it this whole thing about the demon and, the devil has come up and has changed Samuel's powers for bad, then go there. I mean, I guess he has to speak this way because that's what he believes, but it's everything is just sort of flying around, and I don't know. I found
he's determined, like you said, not to. Well, he's determined to be guilty at this point.
Yeah.
He's
That's
so convinced in Scripture, in God, and his ability that he truly believes that whatever's happening is a result of his doing. So
somehow
I believe that his character believes that, but it is a little bit weird.
Again, props to the actors. I didn't see the actors acting. I saw characters there. But what they're doing and how this is happening just leaves me wanting. So I'm blaming the script.
Yeah.
Well, Mulder speaks with the sheriff. He's asking Daniels to release Samuel, but the sheriff tells Mulder he's out of his depth. And at this point, Mulder's just pissed off and petulant, and he doesn't relay the sodium cyanide evidence. And I figured this would be a perfect opportunity for him to say, he didn't do it. You can release him. He didn't poison anybody. This is what we've found. Instead, he just walks away.
Plot hole.
Well, I mean, we need it to happen so that Samuel doesn't get released, so that he can get beat up in jail, which is our very next scene.
I mean, I've watched enough documentaries to know that evidence isn't enough to get someone out of prison, so.
Right. No, he's going to pay for that. I mean, obviously, Sheriff Daniels has an axe to grind. So
he's determined, so he's going to leave him in there.
But I felt like there was a great opportunity for a scene here for Mulder to be the champion and say, look, I've got evidence that says that this is not what you think it is. There is a reasonable explanation here. Let the kid go. But, well, we see a deputy lead two men into Samuel's cell, and they proceed to beat Samuel up very religiously, I want to say. Like, we see the shadow of Samuel spread eagle across the cell bars.
I had flashes of Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ here.
I think they did actually have a scene where he's crucified, where Samuel is legit crucified, and Fox cut it. They're like, this will not play. That scene will not go.
The world is not ready for this.
Yeah. Okay, you've gone too far.
Chris Cutter's like, but we spent a whole day on it.
That's right. I had to get an ostrich.
You know what it looks like? It looks like a play.
Yeah.
He's reacting too much. And
he's acting. Yeah, my least favorite acting bit there. So we fade to black with Samuel getting his face punched in. After the commercial, Deputy Dennis visits the sheriff at home. He relays that the preacher boy is dead. Basically, there was an incident at the jail, and there's a lot of non-looking from the sheriff at this point. Like, his expression is pretty constantly vague. At the county jail, Samuel's body is wheeled away in a body bag.
His blood is spilled, and it's all over you. Reverend. How much longer are you going to hide behind that badge before the truth is revealed?
I have work to do.
Reverend Hartley, we're sorry for your loss.
That boy, he was blessed. He never hurt a soul.
Come on now, Reverend. Our friends will be finding out about Samuel sooner than later, and well, it's probably best if they hear from you. Come on, man.
Got that look on your face, Mulder.
What look is that?
The kind when you've forgotten your keys and you're trying to figure out how to get back in the house.
The sheriff relates the official story that the boys started a fight with a couple of rowdies we picked up on a DUI. Took some pretty mean blows to the head, died before the audience got there. I love that. That's good. That's probably what actually happened. No, he died before the ambulance got there. Oh, he did die before the audience got there. He died in the commercial break, which is pretty sad. Well, it's some pretty nice bit of tracks covering. The Reverend appears. He shows up in his Cadillac and he's shouting curses at the sheriff. And he's pretty touched. He's legitimately sad that Samuel's died.
He's crying.
Yeah, it's a touching scene, if a little bit ham-handed, but
yeah.
Again, the plot demands that they leave, and Vance is like, well, we better go tell the flock about this. Better if it comes from you. So they drive away. And then the scene ends weirdly with like, I feel like this is where the episode could have ended, but Scully looks to Mulder and says, you've got that look in your eye. It's some weird...
I could have done with a 36-minute episode.
Yeah, that's where we are at this point. Well, they go back to search the courtroom, and they see that there are locusts in the air vent. I mean, duh? Like,
yeah, that's where they came from.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we've
waited
this long to get this point.
Evidence.
Wait a minute, they didn't come up through the floor?
We all saw them come through the vent, but now I know they came through the vent.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be the first question you would ask is how did they get in here?
Yeah, I feel like this scene was put at the end of the episode instead of right after it happened.
It should have been earlier, but they could not structurally put it earlier because then you would have had them get their clue. We'll get through this so that it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure nobody's seen this episode. They need us to make sense for it. They go up onto the roof and they see a trail of potato pieces leading into the air vent.
It looked like a horribly old potato.
I'm not sure what it was, but it didn't make sense to me because I feel like, I'm sorry, if you leave a trail of potato pieces, this is going to draw in the army of locusts?
An unbelievable amount of locusts were drawn in by the cartoon placing of a trail of snacks.
I feel like E.T. should wander down if they were Reese's Pieces, but,
A better option here would be to have like a giant plastic bucket and just have it like cast aside near the vent.
A few dead locusts in the bottom of it.
Yeah, it came from a fucking, whatchamacallit.
Yeah. I mean, the implication that somebody accidentally left a few potato pieces, I mean, it could have been accidental.
I can just see Vance up there. This will do it. Yep. There's not a problem with this plan.
Listen, everything is working out for Vance. Like, the deaths happen when he needs them to happen, and the lotusts come when he needs them to come. I feel like he's got the superpower. Honestly.
He's got the superpower.
Yeah. So, yeah, you are meant to take a giant leap with Mulder and Scully here, that this is how this happened. So
why not just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're wanting to fin the episode? Do it.
Well, no, just... Even this small change to me would have been profoundly better. It would have been just a pile of rotten potatoes at the base of the vent or something. Something. Just...
I don't buy the potato angle.
I don't either.
I feel like the only way this makes sense is if they literally poured locusts into the air vent. But then I think the whole courthouse, would have been filled with locusts, not just that one courtroom, because they make it feel like this one air vent leads directly to
the chambers.
But I mean, everybody in that building should have been seeing potato locusts, but anyway, it is very tenuous.
It is the one thing wrong with this episode.
That's right. Everything else is fine. Just this one bit. Moving on. We are now at Reverend Hartley's house, and we are suddenly having a storm. Thunder, lightning. This is happening. It's going to provide a little ambiance, a little lightning ambiance, especially because Leonard Vance is having a fitful sleep. And we're now having him being visited by the ghost of Christmas present, I think. This is a halo-clad Samuel visiting Vance, accusing him of the murders. And as the confrontation continues, the Reverend answers a knock at his door to let in our intrepid duo and Sheriff Daniels. They have come to arrest Vance. They have discovered that Vance placed an order for cyanogen bromide, which in this case is the smoking gun. And when everyone upstairs is, going to get Vance, they find him shivering in his bed. Scully figures out that he's ingested some of his own poison, and Vance goes on to spout some scripture and give us his motive that only an evil person would bring back someone as horrific as Vance, which is probably the worst motive I can understand at this point. Discuss. I mean, everything is just falling apart at this point.
This whole thing. Wow. Just, wow. This episode took a nosedive.
I know you started out being like, it's okay, but now I
think and it still is there. Like, I don't hate the episode by any stretch of the imagination, but good Lord. This final act is like, did you run out of time?
What did you think of Angel Samuel?
Horrible. What the fuck?
I mean, at least they give him a little Obi-Wan Kenobi treatment there.
All it does is point out the fact it's not the same shot.
Yeah.
It's clearly a blue screen.
Or something. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I don't have any reason to believe they didn't have time or money to do this, because X-Files definitely towards the end of the show and the middle had a lot of funds to play with. But
this is still season 1, though.
Absolutely.
And they did blow all their money on space, so they're in corners where they can.
But this feels like, to me, what the end of Signs was, when the aliens are allergic to water.
Yeah.
What that says to me is like, we are out of time and we have to end this somehow.
What it says to me is the aliens didn't do their research on invading this particular planet.
This planet is blue. Let's go here.
It's full of water?
We're capable of interstellar travel, but we can't test for the thing that kills us. Okay.
Hope it doesn't rain when we get there. That would really ruin our day.
Invasion thwarted because they landed in Florida.
That's my other favorite part of this episode, of this scene, is that Scully's like, "Oh, he's dying. We've got to move him immediately." But they just sit there and let him monologue. It's like,
because he's the bad guy. They gotta let him do it. He's gotta.
No, they just sit there and let him do it, and let him have his death scene. That'll look good in a report. Nobody moved to administer life-saving techniques.
Instead of being a doctor, she goes and smells a glass. I think it's cyanide. Yeah. He's talking. I'll wait.
I don't want to be rude and interrupt him. Yeah.
I'm not gonna do CPR.
I can't touch him. He's horrible.
He's icky for a multitude of reasons.
I don't know. I like this game of how do you make it a better episode?
Well, like we said, stop it at the 36-minute mark. Things were already like a rickety bridge at that point. You don't want to go too much further.
I think the problem is that they didn't know what they wanted this episode to be, because they have the religious angle. Like, they are making Samuel into a Christ figure, literally, because he rises from the dead and he is a ghost accusing Vance of all the murders and then ultimately forgiving him. You know, this is another bit of plot sauce that he's going to forgive Vance as well.
Carter sauce is what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So they really lay it on a bit thick there in a way which doesn't jibe with any other X-Files episode. Like, there's always there's a bait and switch of you.
They're leaning too heavy into the religious aspect, because then it's not traditional X-Files, right? It's not giving us a question at the end.
Oh,
and we're, what did this mean?
Yeah.
He is supernatural in the sense that maybe he is some sort of deity or a Christ child, like you said. It's like, it's very on the nose. A little too much for this show.
I think so. Like, if they gave us, and they do give us, they give us the partial plot bait and switch of, you think it's Samuel that's killing these people, but in fact it's Vance who's poisoning them, and we have the poison, so that is going to solve that element. So in that case, the agents actually do something, which they oftentimes don't.
But they don't get to apprehend him. He kills himself.
He kills himself, of course. I mean, I guess it's a win, but I think it was better if you didn't have Samuel in his little ghost scene with Vance. You cut that, and I think it's a better scene.
Absolutely.
And then you could have the disappearance of the body, which we'll get to. Why don't we go to it? And then we can wrap up.
Let's just wrap this one up.
So we are now in the end game of this episode. We begin our close with a notes-taking session by Scully. It's been a while since we've had one of these. She's typing up some notes. She drops some more exposition about Vance wanting not just to kill Samuel, but to kill the Ministry's faith in Samuel. I'm not sure I buy that, because he seems pretty active in the Ministry, right? Like, there could have been other ways he sabotages it, but I don't know. The plot demands that he's an ally right up until the point he's a villain. So, sure.
I think the idea is that he's trying to bring it down and not have it not obviously point to him, I guess, is the idea. So he's letting it all happen, but he's slowly destroying the Ministry from within. I don't know.
Sure. Okay.
I'm trying.
I know. We're trying to polish this one. Well, Mulder interrupts Scully's note-taking session to let her know that Samuel's body is missing from the morgue. A nurse claims that she saw Samuel walking out by himself. Literally, he's rising from the dead. Well, they go and talk to the nurse, who I think, Mike is about to tell me, appears in 4 other episodes.
2 people, actually, again.
Okay, go.
This is Lisa Ann Belay, I believe. I believe that's her name. She will, again, play in Little Green Men. She is the inquisitive student that Scully is teaching. You sounded a little spooky. That's her.
Oh, she's got a very small part in that one.
Yeah. And then the detective here, Dennis Tyson. Yes. That is played by Roger Haskett, and we will see him. We actually just saw him in Travelers. He was the coroner.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was wearing glasses in that one.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it
why
was...
we don't recognize him, yeah. Probably we'll
of
put a
4
mustache
years.
on him the next time we see him, right? We get to repeat from the nurse what we already know, that she saw Samuel walk away, and she lost him when he walked around a corner. The sheriff leaves in a huff, not wanting to hear more of this woman's crazy talk. But apparently others in the ward saw Samuel leave as well. Scully and Mulder share a meaningful look as the sheriff heads home. And inside Sheriff's house, wife is a bit upset when she reads, Harriet, I'm canonically naming her Harriet. She's a bit upset when she reads the news headline about Samuel. Wasn't he a fraud? Didn't you tell me he was a fraud? And at last we see our sheriff is confronted by all of his bad deeds when a deputy arrives to escort the sheriff to a meeting with the district attorney to ask some questions about Samuel's death. Our final scene sees the agents watching the ministry tent being torn down, and they speculate if Reverend Hartley will get out of the ministry business or double down on Samuel's resurrection as the miracle of miracles. Mulder gets a final vision of little Samantha after he proclaims, I think people are looking hard for miracles. So hard maybe they make themselves see what they want to see. And we fade away to our credits. So, not as bad as some. There are others are...
This one's still enjoyable.
Questions. Yeah.
In my opinion. I enjoy it. I think we're on the same page. The acting is good.
Yeah,
I enjoy it for the most part. It's Samuel and his father keep me coming back to this episode if it comes on. Like I don't seek it out, but I think it prevents the skip for me, you know.
It's the script for me because the direction is solid. Like there's nothing about this where, you know, it's watchable, nothing is too dark. There are literally some episodes where it's like I can't see what's happening in this scene. Why did you do this? You know, it's blocked well, it's convincing, the action, the pacing is good. It's just the script. There's stuff missing here, you know, and they take some steps that don't make sense. So I just wish they had a few extra scenes which connected the dots and removed a few bits and pieces, which I think would have made a bit more X-Files-y. Like anything with Samuel obviously being Jesus can go. And maybe that enough would do it for me. But anyway, I guess we're on to final thoughts here. So let's run them down.
It's an enjoyable episode. I come to it for the acting, not the story, because the story is really not great. It does fall off the deep end towards the last act here. So, I mean, do a couple things differently. No potatoes.
Yes.
Get rid of that.
With the locusts would have been.
Yeah, just a bucket from the feed store or something, you know, the bait store, I mean.
Yeah.
And no spooky Samuel ghosts.
Yes.
That was ridiculous. Just do the standard Vance wakes up and he sees a figure and then the camera cuts to Mulder and the sheriff entering the house or something. And then we can like make an assumption about what happened. Don't give us this whole repentant ghost thing. Like,
yeah,
it's just too on the head for me. And for the show, honestly, we talk about all the questions that X-Files leaves you with, and some are great and some are not great. But this episode could have done a lot better with the question, whatever that question would be, you know?
Well, yeah. And I think that's another, I'll give you my final thoughts. Unless you had more to give.
No.
I didn't mean to supplant you there. It's a different Monster of the Week episode, to its credit. It runs slow. I think the Samantha angle is tacked on in a way that doesn't make sense. Like, I think you could have cut that too, and you wouldn't have missed it. Like, it gives him something to chew on, I suppose, but it doesn't really go anywhere other than reminding us that Samantha is a thing. Maybe it's good to bring that back. I don't know.
Yeah.
To the episode's credit, they actually do get to solve the mystery, and that doesn't always happen. So good for you.
And it is interesting, I guess, that the monster is a human who's just doing bad things. You know, it's okay. That's different. Yeah. I'll take that. Just execute it differently. You know, you were doing all right in the beginning, but then you just took it too far.
Yep. I do like that they kind of give us an explanation for the disappearance of Samuel. Perhaps it was engineered by Reverend Hartley's group. I mean, they totally just tack that on, though, as opposed to give it some serious consideration. But, of course, it doesn't happen because how do you explain the nurse and everyone else having their hallucination? I mean, that doesn't track either. So, yeah, I guess you need to cut that,
I guess
too.
That's the question they're supposed to give us, but I don't.
You cut that nurse scene too,
and
you just learn that the body disappeared, and then you go to your ending with them saying, well, maybe they stole the body. I think the body just disappeared. Know. Exactly. That would have been the X-Files way to end it.
Yeah.
As opposed to everybody saying, well, I just saw him walk up and walk away, and other people saw it too.
Did he move a large boulder before he left the room?
Yes, that is hospital policy. We don't use doors here. We close the rooms with large boulders.
Was it 3 days after he died?
Surprisingly, yeah, it was 3 days. Interesting. Right. Yeah, coincidence, probably just coincidence. Well, I don't know if I go out of my way to watch this episode again.
Nah. It's whatever. It's an all right episode. Not the burst by any stretch of the imagination.
It is a kind 3.
Oh, cry check.
Well, I think that's all that we need to say about this episode. Thank you very much for listening to us natter on about Miracle Man. That's all from me, Andrew, and we'll just say it's been a pleasure praising the Lord with you all tonight. Mike, do you want to say goodnight to our listeners?
Peace be with you.
Very on the nose.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.